Thanks for supporting stand-up comedy. You really only have two choices when it comes to live comedy. There's stand-up and improv. Now, if you've been to an improv comedy show, say boo. Oh, music to my ears. Yes, boo improv comedy. Improv comedy is an epidemic in LA. Everyone does it. No one's good at it. My roommate's patient zero. And just like a peek behind the curtain, improv actors and comedians hate each other. Comedians hate improv actors because their art is like a group sport. It's highly unorganized and, of course, obnoxious. And improv actors hate comedians because we're funny. There is one thing I love about improv comedy, though, when it's over. No. But kind of. There's this thing that happens in improv comedy, if you've ever been exposed to a show. If the scene is like ending, or if it's not going well, it's always the latter. One of the teammates, the most painfully white one, kind of like runs across the stage and wipes the scene clean. And I just love that because I wish we had that in everyday life. Like, you're on a first date and the guy's like, blue lives matter. And you're like, oh, no. You're at an STD clinic, like, you tested positive for 3 different, oh, no. You can leave that on my voicemail. Speaking of collecting STDs, I'm dating. Dating's hard. Dating gay dudes is hard. Am I right, ladies? No, I feel like I reached like peak millennial dating moment. I was on a date a few nights ago. The guy disclosed in the middle of it, he asked me out because his birth chart told him to. Ooh. I was like, what does the chart say about eating my ass? What house is my booty in, Starboy? No, I did come across my favorite Tinder profile ever. How do we feel about the wallet phone case? Fun fact, when you turn 30, they just send you one. Okay, so first of all, his name is Yale, which I think we can all agree is the key word in an article about sexual assault. Like the Yale rapist, or Yale the rapist. Both work. But here's his profile. In this age of hipster twerps and soy boys present, it's time we revisit the glory days. And then it's just bullet points about him. Owns a construction company. Physically confident. Can scale a mountain. Is everyone else sopping wet? And this next one, you guys. If I have to kill, I do it neatly. I've just been asking audiences, what does that mean? Like, are there any damaged men in the room who would like this? Or is it just like 50-50, you're gonna die on this date? After that, it's healthy and active with a modicum of decorum. And at the very bottom, it just says, in Southern California with a kid for a Make-A-Wish type thing. Is this what we're killing neatly? So I swiped right. Hopefully I'll match with old Yale. Because unfortunately, Yale is my type. I'm painfully attracted to toxic masculinity. Do we know what that is? Yes. For those of you who don't, toxic masculinity is when a man becomes so masculine, he becomes poisonous to himself and those around him. And it makes me come so hard. Because, okay, like, you guys know me now. I'm catastrophically gay. Which is super cute in, like, LA and New York. Not so cute in other parts of the world. And, or look at it this way, I'm not built for battle. Like, I'm just as frail as I look. Like, these wrists are good for 3 things. Holding a microphone, mixing pancake batter, and jerking off dudes who don't read good. You guys drinking tonight? Yes. I found out kind of recently I'm allergic to alcohol, which, yeah, tear. But I just feel stupid I didn't put it together. Literally every time I drink alcohol, I end up covered in semen. I'm an alcoholic. Okay. Been sober for a while, moments from relapse. Tonight would be a great night to do it. But just for me, I found myself drinking lots of alcohol and then making bad decisions. And now, years into sobriety, I found no alcohol, still making lots of bad decisions. Only now I remember them all very clearly. So maybe it's gluten. Gonna cut that out next. But I've never like eaten a bunch of pasta and then fucked a busboy. I've done that. Okay. Always room for one more noodle. Okay. I absolutely still behave like a drunk person. A few weekends ago, I made out with a dude at a bar. Yes, a few sluts in here. Good, good. So some of you feel bad for me already. You'll feel worse when I describe the guy. So he was tall, and that's where the pros list ends. But come with me on this journey. Long, greasy brown hair and a loose pony. That's half the men in Silver Lake, so buckle up. Silky white shirt unbuttoned below the navel. Gold necklaces. Hoop earrings. You should be picturing a pirate by now. That's what he was. A millennial fuckboy pirate. And just to tell myself at this point in the story, he had had 16 drinks, was completely cross-eyed. I had had 2 Red Bulls, thinking clearer than I ever have in my entire life. And so he comes over on his peg leg. No, he didn't have a peg leg. He didn't have a peg leg. That would have been cool. That would have gone on the pros list. No, but he came over and this is his line. This is what sunk my battleship. I don't know why, but I'm attracted to you. Couldn't think of one thing. Followed immediately by, and I think you should come with me to the bathroom and suck my dick. I wanted to be like, oh, no. So I'm sucking this guy's dick, and that's how I got scurvy. All right, I'm Zach Noe Towers. Thanks so much, you guys.